Hello everybody, happy Monday. Welcome to week 3 in our sew along. My name's Bev McCullough. My blog is Flamingo Toes. And I am just so excited. I'm having so much fun sewing up this quilt with you guys. And I love seeing all your progress. There's so many of you that are sharing photos of the blocks and sections as you're doing them. Some of you are sewing them together already, which I love. It's turning out so great, and it's so fun to see those of you that are sewing with Enchanted Meadow. You seem to be really enjoying those fabrics. We're seeing some others that are made up in different fabrics, and those are really fun too. So if you are new to the sew along, I hope that you will feel free to dive in regardless of whether you're sewing with Enchanted Meadow or not. There are just so many fun. We're just having a blast together, hanging out and sewing on Mondays and then sharing our progress. And there's giveaways, and there's just such a great community. So if you do want to sew with Enchanted Meadow, there are still a few shops that have kits left. So I have those linked in today's video description. You can check that out and pick that up. Even if you don't have time to sew it right now and you want to do this eventually later, it's a good idea to pick up a kit, because in a few months they won't be available, or even a month. I'm not really sure how quickly they're selling, but if you're wanting to eventually do the quilt, the videos will be available for you to watch always, and so you could pick it up to do in the summer or in the spring or next fall or whatever. So anytime. So I hope that you guys had a great weekend. I want to say hi to see who's here since we're live right now. Over on YouTube, Sherry's here from Indiana. Lisa's here from Minnesota. Happy Monday to you too. Mrs. B.A.T. is here from West Virginia. Hello. Jane's here from Minnesota. The sun is shining. Yay, that sounds lovely. I do not have sun today. I just have this weird overcast, like sort of raining, sort of not. It's like it can't really make up its mind what's going on outside. I'm not really down for it. I'm really kind of a sunshine kind of gal. But it's fine. It's not snowing, so we'll take it. Val's also here from sunny Tucson. I love it, Val. That's great. Over on Facebook, I got to scroll back here. Facebook, we have Rosemary. Hey, Rosemary, so glad you're here live. I'm so glad you like the quilt. Thanks. Allison's here. Rhonda's here. Have fun with your kiddos, Rhonda. Dawn and Wendy are here. I love that you guys are having fun chatting. Shirley's here. Yay! Loving your quilts. Pam's here. Hey, Pam. And Elizabeth. Carrie's here from snowy Nova Scotia. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Carrie. How much more winter do you have? Shall we pray for you? I'm so sorry. Yes. Rhonda says she still goes back and watch older videos. That's great, Rhonda. I'm so glad they're helpful. And Anne's here from Pasco, Washington. And Darlene's here. Hey, Darlene. So glad that you're here, and I'm so glad. Allison says this is the nicest Facebook group. I totally agree. This is the best. Oh, Mary Beth's over on YouTube. Hey, Mary Beth. So today we are talking about our first row of our Churn Dash. So really it goes like this. It's a little bit hard to picture, and hopefully this isn't too complicated for you guys. We're assembling our Churn Dash in sections, and I'm going to explain to you in a little while the reason why we're doing it this way. Normally with a Churn Dash, you would sew together, sections that look like this, like pretend this is the bottom or the top, and sew up on the sides and then the top. And we'll eventually be making Churn Dashes with this row. But because of the way that our corner stars really nestle in, we can't put our Churn Dashes together and then the trees. We have to kind of do it like this. So I promise there's a method to my madness. If you're feeling like, why can't I just put together my Churn Dash whole blocks? I promise there's a reason for it. So right now, this week, we are sewing this row of the Churn Dashes, and there are 4 of these rows. 2 of them have a pink square on the end. Those are going to be the corners of this section, and this section can get sewn to the previous section. So if you're one of those that has already sewn together your large star and your flower baskets and small stars, you can sew this Churn Dash if you want to skip ahead to the assembly section, you can go ahead and sew these in place. However, after this week, you'll have to give yourself a little bit of break in assembly. We have to sew the top parts of the Churn Dash and the trees together before we can sew anything else together. So those of you that are assembling as you go, after this week, you can do these, but after this week, you have to wait. So, and you'll see once we get to the assembly section how easy it all goes together. But it does have to be assembled like this to get all the puzzle pieces to fit together. We're playing a very pretty version of Tetris here with this quilt. It's so fun, and it makes a really cool look how these blocks nest together, but it might be a little bit different than you're used to for assembly. So hopefully that's okay. Hopefully you're still having fun. Okay. Dawn needs help figuring out which direction the fabric would go. We're going to talk about that too, Dawn, I promise, when we get to sewing. So the first week of our sew along, we had just a big kickoff week. And then the first week we started sewing, we assembled the center of our quilt, which is this really pretty, there's a lot of Churn Dash blocks in this quilt, and the center is a ginormous one. So this was our first week. And then last week we sewed up these little flower basket blocks and the star blocks. And in doing these, we made up a lot of half square triangles and stitch and flip blocks, and we're going to keep going with that method. Now that you've got those down, we're just going to keep making half square triangles. So that is what we're going to be doing today. But before we do that, I think we should have a giveaway. Don't you guys think we should have giveaways? Okay, so every week in my videos, we have a giveaway, and it's my way of saying thank you guys for watching and tuning in and being the best group on Facebook ever, and YouTube. Can't forget YouTube. So last week, our prize was a really fun bundle. It is a fat quarter. It's not fat quarters. It's a 10-inch stacker of Hush Hush. And Hush Hush is Riley Blake's first low volume collection that is made up of a lot of different designers. So pretty, you guys. There's 42 different pieces in here, so 2 of each print. There are 21 different prints, and they're 21 different designers. My math is startlingly amazing. So this is a great low volume bundle. I'll kind of hold it up there so you can see. It's hard to tell with all the light in the video, but by the fact that you can see a little bit going on, that's what you'll see in your quilts. Just a hint of something interesting happening in the background where it's not just plain, but nothing so bold that it takes away from your quilt. So this is a perfect background fabric. To go with that, we have one of my patterns that uses a 10-inch stacker for both the prints and the background. So all you'll need to do to make this up is get a 10-inch stacker and a little bit of yardage for these dark red points, and then your border fabric. But this will be your background fabric for this quilt, and it's called Vintage Stars. It's my take on a vintage quilt style called, that uses vintage stars, but they used to piece it by hand, and all these Y seams and things like that. That's not really my favorite thing at all. So I made a version of this that is a lot easier to piece together, and we have videos of those in the Facebook group. We did a Vintage Stars sew along last year, so if you want to check those out while you make this quilt up, please do so. And then to make it even easier, I have my little pink templates. These go with my pattern. These go with my Vintage Stars, my Vintage Garden, and my Penny Serenade patterns. And they are really fun, and they make cutting templates out so much easier. So there is a half hexie and a little triangle template in here. So you are on your way to making a really cute quilt. And today's winner for last week's giveaway is Val Earl. And Val, I saw your name over on YouTube. I hope you're still watching. You're our winner this week. So send me an email, bev@flamingotoes.com, with your mailing address, and I'll get that out in the mail to you this week. So congratulations. The giveaways are super easy to enter. All you have to do is leave a comment on the video, and you can do that wherever you're watching and whenever you're watching, as long as it's the week after the video. So before next week's video, anytime you can leave a comment, multiple comments if you would like, and those are your entries into the giveaway. Super easy, super fun to do. So today I thought I would bring out a little bit more Enchanted Meadow for you guys since you're loving it so much. I have a 10-inch stacker here of Enchanted Meadow for you. There you can see all the cute colors and prints in the collection. That's what we're sewing with here. And it's one of my favorite collections. I seems like you guys are really liking it too. I do have all the pre-cuts available in the shop, so if you want to pick up some, you know, maybe you're sewing with a different fabric for this quilt, or if you want to make something else with Enchanted Meadow, I have 10-inch stackers, 5-inch stackers, fat quarters, and roly-polies. This is the hand signal for roly-polies. I have roly-polies in the shop, so you can pick those up if you are needing some fabric. And to go with your 10-inch stacker, I have a really cute pink Olfa rotary cutter. You guys know that Olfa is just a really, really great brand. This is their Splash rotary cutter, so it's got that safety guide that you can close so you don't cut your fingers off when you're not using it. And then I have a cute Lori Holt charm that you can add to your project bags or your purse or your keychains or anything like that. She's got such cute charms, doesn't she? She's really great. So that is this week's giveaway. If you would like to win, just enter a comment. Leave a comment. Super easy. Super fun to do. Let's see. Yay, Val's excited. She's still here. Oh, it's warm and sunny in Alabama. Oh, that's awesome, Cammie. I'm ready for spring. And Jane says she loves new ways to do things. Me too, Jane. That's my favorite. When I get a quilt pattern that I'm doing if somebody else is in, they've got a method that I've never done before. It's like Christmas. I love it so much. It's always nice when we can do what we know, right? But it's so fun to see how there's new ways to do things, or maybe easier ways to do things, or just different but not harder or easier. I love that too. Yay. Okay. Rhonda says, sweet pink. I know, right, Rhonda? Of course it's pink. That's what we do here. We do pink in all forms. Except for my collection that's coming out this fall, which is not pink at all, you guys. I don't know what happened. It just didn't have any pink room in it, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. Speaking of which, coming up, I'm going to post about it in my Facebook group, and I'll post on it on my regular Facebook page as well. But Riley Blake is having their virtual quilt market at the end of the month. It is going to be April 27th, 28th, and 29th. And it's virtual, so the entire quilt market event is held in the Facebook group. So it's RBD Virtual Market. I'll link to it in the video description. I'll go back and add it. And it is 3 days of amazingness, you guys. 3 days of people, of designers showing their new collection, of Riley Blake talking about collections coming out, whether they are designers or they're in-house or they have a lot of licensed collections, which are really cool. And all that means is they're licensed by large companies. So that's like Barbie and Hershey's, and they have some new Jane Austen stuff coming out and fun things like that. So there's going to be a whole assortment of things. Some people are sharing blog posts, some people have videos, some people are doing lives. I will be doing 2 lives for 2 different things. And I would really love it if you guys joined me over there. I will, you can look for the RBD Riley Blake Virtual Market Facebook group, or RBD Virtual Market. I'm sorry that I don't know immediately off the top of my head, but I'll go back later and edit the video description with the link to the Facebook group. And all you have to do is ask to join, and then you'll be able to see everything. There's nothing in there right now other than, I think they leave the old market, 6 months it stays in there from the fall market. So I don't know if that stuff's in there, but there's not really anything for spring market in there yet. But there will be at the end of the month. So behind the scenes, in addition to this sew along, things are crazy town over here as far as all the sewing happening to get ready. But I can't wait for you guys to see the next fabrics. I'm really, really proud of them. I feel like they're really good, and I can't wait to see what you think of them. So some of you, I've maybe already seen sneak peeks. They're on the Riley Blake site in the coming soon section. But if you ever want to get a sneak peek at things that are coming, Riley Blake's website is open to the public. You can't purchase from them, but you can see what's coming. So it's a good way to kind of get sneak peeks at new fabrics. Save your budgeting. I know this is coming out in October, so this is October's budget fabric. I do that. That's for sure. Okay, are you guys ready to sew? Let's sew. I want to make sure. Rhonda, yes, 2 lives. I have one on the 27th and one on the 28th. And then I'm taking off the 29th, which is my birthday, and I think I'm eating cake or something to celebrate the fact that I will have gotten through my 2 lives. So yes, it's going to be a big week around here. Mary Beth says she loves the line, and has anyone thought of changing up the colors to make this a Christmas quilt? Okay, Mary Beth, I'm so excited that you said that because somebody else commented that it would be a fun Christmas quilt, and I love that idea. So I wanted this to have a woodland vibe, which you can see that it does with the trees and things like that. I love anything woodland, though I don't necessarily want to be in the woods for a very long period of time. That's kind of like my love for camping. I love the idea of camping, but I don't actually want to go camping. So, but I love that this is a Christmas quilt, and I am actually going to make up another version later in the year in Christmas fabrics. So I would love to see if you guys make up any in Christmas fabrics. I think that would be so fun, and I think it would lend itself to a Christmas fabric collection really well. So that's a great idea, Mary Beth. I love it. Hey, Dorothy. Okay, so, Stephanie thought the same thing over on Facebook. Okay, about it being a Christmas quilt. I would love to see that. If anybody does that, make sure you post photos so that we can see. Okay. Oh, I'm starting a new segment in the videos, and I should have done this at the very beginning, but I forgot until just now. So, you guys have asked, we've talked about teas a lot. Most of you know that pretty much if you were to cut me open, it would not bleed. It would just kind of be tea, which is really gross. That's gross. Pretend I didn't say that. I am 98% tea. That is all I drink, except for when a little bit of coffee in the middle of the day, but that's it. So I thought it would be fun. I love creative teas. I can't drink any caffeine. My heart can't take it, but I do love really flavorful teas, and I like to get different things. So if you ever come across a great tea, I want you to let me know, and I thought I'd do the same for you. So today's tea is from a company called August Uncommon, and none of this is sponsored, you guys. This is just me sharing my love for tea, right? So it's August Uncommon. They make really creative, good teas. So the flavors are not English breakfast and Earl Grey and, whatever, peppermint. I love those things, but they do some very cool stuff. So today's tea is called Psycho Candy, which sounds crazy, but it's not. It's a pumpkin caramel rooibos. And I know we're not supposed to drink pumpkin things unless it's fall, but I'm a rebel like that, and I drink this tea year round. It's so good. It's a rooibos, which means that it's an herbal tea, no caffeine, but rooibos teas have a little bit, if you're not familiar with them, they have usually stronger flavors than just herbal teas. So it's almost like you can get the strength of that black tea vibe without all the caffeine of a black tea. So it's just, if you haven't ever tried a rooibos because you're like, I don't know what that is and I don't know how to say it. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I don't know. Please try it. It's really good. So anyway, this one's Psycho Candy. It's so good, you guys. Pumpkin caramel. I'm going to talk about some other August teas as we go over the next weeks. They're one of my favorite companies because they just really do cool stuff. But if you haven't ever tried them, check them out. They are online. I don't know of anybody that carries them in person, so you just have to go. But I have the tea linked in today's video description, so check them out. They're really good. So that is powering today's video in tea form. All right. Oh, Anna said in China she had cranberry tea and loved it. Brought some home with her, but it's gone. Oh my goodness, Anna. Well, that all sounds super exciting and so fun. Cranberry tea sounds great. I like berry teas a lot. And really, I think I'd be happy to have anything in China. I think they know tea, but that sounds great. That's cool. Okay, so on to sewing now. So today we are making up, as I said at the beginning of the video, we are making up these cute Churn Dash rows. They're not very big. They go together pretty quickly, despite the fact that you have to make a few half square triangles. Once you do, then it's very quick to assemble. So what we're going to talk about is fabrics first. Now in the pattern booklet, I comment that you need 3 light pinks and 3 dark pinks. That is so that you have a little bit of variety in your churn dashes. So A should be all of them. So the A prints are a pink print, the B prints are also a light pink, and the C prints are a different light pink. So we're talking A, B, and C, 3 different light pink prints. I didn't put in the pattern booklet which is which, but if you want to do yours exactly the way the pattern cover shows, you want to make a note on this. So the A prints are the pink and aqua floral. So they're the pink print that has the little blue flowers on it, this print, and there's little white, almost like rings of pearls. That's this print right here. That is the A print. The B print is the light pink with the mushrooms, that one. And the C print is the pink with the pine needles. Now, you don't have to do it this way, but my recommendation is to write down which prints you pick for A, B, and C, because you're going to want to keep those prints the same for next week's section 4 of the rest of the Churn Dash fabrics, okay? Because you want your Churn Dash to be made up of all the same prints, unless you're going like totally scrappy, which is fine, and all of your Churn Dashes, you know, all your legs of your Churn Dash are different. Because we're assembling this in 2 sections, you want this entire Churn Dash to be the same print, this one to be the same print, this one to be the same print. So just make a note of what you're doing. So again, A is the pink with aqua flowers, B is the pink with the mushrooms, C is the light pink with the pine needles, then D is the dark pink with, or it's very dark pink, with the mushrooms. E is the houndstooth print, the dark pink houndstooth print, and F is the dark pink with the micro dots, and G is also dark pink with the micro dots. So just write those down, and again, that's just if you want to make yours exactly like the pattern cover shows. You don't have to do that. But if you want to, I wanted to give you the information for it. Okay, so that is what you're going to need to know to assemble it that way. So what we're going to do is we are making these little Churn Dash segments here. And I'm going to lay these out so I have a little bit of space here. And I just want to make it nice and easy and organized before we switch over to our camera. We have lots of things here. I'm going to switch cameras and then we will chat. Well, we're still chatting. Okay, but we're going to talk about all the things here. So I have laid out here, and I've done a lot of prep. Now you can kind of see how these all go together. So basically, this is one end of a Churn Dash. This is going to form the end of a Churn Dash. This is a different Churn Dash. Does that make sense? So that's how I'm assembling it. And all the instructions are here as far as how you're going to lay it out. So you want to, those little alphabeties come in real handy, especially on a case like this, so that you can mark which are your A prints, which are your B prints, which are your C prints. Excuse me. Now, if you are sewing with directional prints, like this little guy here, when you're doing this section, so what I did on the layout of this quilt, and it's a little bit hard to see here, I assembled these so that they are directional, but the directions go pointing towards each side. So on this row, the little mushroom prints all face the same direction. They all face up like you're looking at them. On this row, the direction is going this way. So now the mushrooms point towards here. Same with this one. Now the mushrooms point down. And I did that because the trees are kind of pointing, sorry about the glare, the trees are kind of pointing that direction. However, these are pretty small, and you're probably having to squint to even see that there are, you know, prints in this quilt behind me. So if you want to throw out the whole directional concern at this point, you can totally do that. Nobody's going to look at your churn dashes and go, oh my gosh, your mushrooms are sideways on that. That's not going to happen. So I'll tell you how I kind of did it, and I assembled, especially when we talk about next week rows. You don't need to cut anything different when you're cutting your, you can cut all of your little mushrooms out this week going this way. When it comes to next week, you're going to want to cut some of your mushroom prints out horizontally and some vertically so that you get those mushrooms going up and down on your side legs of the churn dash. So if that's confusing, let me know. I'm happy to explain more in the comments, but that is how I aligned these for the overall quilt. So that basically, because each of these strips is going to change direction as it goes around the center square, I made the directional follow that angle of the alignment, kind of pointing toward the trees. Does that make sense? I hope that that helps, Dawn. Wendy says she cut both weeks at the same time to not mess it up. Good idea, Wendy. You can go ahead and cut this week's and next week's. You can start on next week's too. They're assembled the same way, but don't sew next week's blocks, strips to your circle, your center circle yet. Don't do that yet because it's not going to match up correctly. And Rhonda says she took a pic of the cover and blew it up to see which prints to use. Great idea. That's a great idea. Okay, so to start, we're going to have a lot of these little strips in different prints, and these form the sides of, or what is the base of our churn dash. And all that we have to do with these is sew them down one side. I have put them right sides together. And I am just going to sew here, if I can find my presser foot. So something to keep in mind when you are working with little pieces like this is that you want to try and make your cutting as accurate as possible. If you are cutting with a rotary cutter that's dull, or maybe your mat's dull, or if you're cutting with a ruler that's real slippery, it's easy to slip as you're cutting, especially when you're cutting these narrower pieces, and that can throw your whole quilt off if your sizing gets a little wonky. And we've all done it. I'm not saying that there's that I'm better at this than anybody else. Just something to kind of keep in mind. Maybe consider if your ruler feels real slippery and you feel like as you're pushing your rotary cutter that it's sliding, and so you're ending up with kind of almost diagonal cuts. Consider getting some little sticky labels for the bottom of your ruler, or you can look at the Creative Grids rulers have a, if you're interested in changing your rulers, you can see from the glare on this edge that isn't shiny is kind of a sticky, not sticky, but it's a non-stick slip edge. So, and then there's a couple dots on the back of the rulers too. And that's one of the reasons I'm slowly switching all my rulers over to those, because I just don't like fighting with that feeling of your ruler slipping and then feeling like you're constantly having to correct your cuts or anything like that. I am going to, what did I do here? Okay. I don't know where my other little pieces are. Okay. So so you're going to do that with all of your prints. I have I don't know where my other pile of my little center prints are. Okay, but that's fine. We're good. You guys gonna get the drift of this. So then once you have all of your pink, these are like the legs of your churn dash. Once you have all of these sewn, you're going to do that for all three of your light pink prints. Then you're going to start making your half square triangles. So we talked about this in the churn dash. You're going to draw a diagonal line on your background fabric, and you're going to place it right sides together with your cute print And then you're going to sew a scant 1/4 inch seam on either side of that diagonal line. And all that scant seam means that you're just kind of overlapping with your 1/4 inch foot on your machine that marked line. And if you don't have a 1/4 inch foot on your machine, I highly recommend that you pick one up. They don't cost too much. You can usually even find like generic ones on Amazon. If you want to, just make sure that you get the right kind that will fit on your machine. But it just gives you so much more, I don't know, I love the clarity of being able to see running my fabric along the side of the foot rather than trying to use the lines on the bottom like on my plate. I just feel like it's so much more accurate to have that foot. Okay, so now I am cutting on the marked line. I did replace my blade, you guys, but because I'm sitting down, apparently standing and cutting are just the best. So I cut on my marked line, and now I'm going to press, and with these I'm pressing towards the print fabric. And I do also, when I'm doing a pressing, I press on the back side and then I flip it over and I press on the front side to give it a nice, make sure it's nice and flat. And I will also hit it sometimes with a little bit of, I like the flatter sprays. These are a very, very light starch spray. They also smell amazing. So it's just a little bit, kind of a cross between a strong starch and then just water, but it just gives it a little bit more strength, helps your blocks lay just a little bit flatter, as the name implies, and also they smell amazing. So this is the Pineapple Grove smell, and you can pick those up. A lot of quilt shops have them. I think Fat Quarter Shop has them, and I'm pretty sure you can buy them on Amazon as well. So once you have all your half square triangles cut, then we're going to trim them down. And you guys know that I like to trim 2 at a time. So just to go over that again, I'm overlapping my blocks so that the sides, so that the seams line up and the background is kind of opposite the print square, and that allows those seams to nest together. Then I'm placing my ruler on the little cute square, and I'm lining up the diagonal line of the ruler with my seam. And then I'm going to cut 2 sides at once. And again, this is a lot more accurate if you're standing up. I slipped there. Okay, so that is normally much better. I'm sorry that doesn't, I promise it works really well, but I'm not standing up. So I did these 2 sides, and now I'm going to flip it around and do these 2 sides. Despite that incredibly messy sawing thing that just happened, we're still fine. Okay, so now I took that off, and now I have 2 darling little cute half square triangles that you can use for your blocks. And so all that we're doing now, once we assemble all of our pieces, is we're going to sew them together, and we're going to sew them together as the illustration shows. So keep in mind, you're going to look at that illustration, and you're going to, for 2 of your rows, you're going to end your blocks, your strips like this. And then for 2 of your rows, you're going to sew this pink cute square on either end. So those are going to be the, let me just double check how I had it. Yes. So the strips that end without that pink square are going to be the sides. So those are what you're going to sew to the side of the sections that you assembled already. And then the pieces that have the pink squares sewn on the end are going to go on the top and bottom. And again, all those instructions are in the booklet, but I want you to make sure if you are going to go ahead and start assembling, and I'm going to cover all this when we actually get to the assembly week, but I want your points. These are your points. I want your points. Sorry, let me move my hands because I'm not in the screen. You want your points to point towards the center of your section. You are not going to sew this side that is the straight side to the center. That's going to be facing out. It is easy to flip your strips at this point, but if you flip them, then your churn dashes will be, that whole strip will be upside down. And so I don't want you guys to do that. So make sure that your points, all of them, each row, point in towards the center of your quilt. Okay, does that make sense? Oh, who said, somebody said their local shop carries flatter. Oh, Rhonda said that. Yes, they do smell very good, Dawn. Shirley said that the Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer saved her unsquaring the HSTs. Okay, so that's another cool tool that you guys can look up. Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer. So check that out. All right. Rhonda likes the teensy tiny cutting mat. Me too, Rhonda. That's one of my favorite things. So I use that little tiny mat for any time that I'm doing stitch and flip blocks or I'm doing half square triangles that need trimming that are small. It's from Backwater Shop, and you can see it's got, well, yeah, there you go. You can see it's got lots of little cuts on it, but I'm totally okay with it because I think this thing was $15 or $16, and it saves you from cutting all that trimming on your regular cutting mat, doing it in one place or feeling like you have to move around your mat all the time. So if you get a little mat like this, one, it's rotating, so you can rotate your mat easily, but two, you're putting all your wear for lots of repeated squaring up of blocks on something like this rather than your, you know, your good big cutting mat. So just something to keep in mind as a really easy thing to keep on hand for those trimming blocks. So okay, yes, Rhonda says flipping is bad. Got it. I'm glad. I've impressed upon you not to flip your strips. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. Oh, Maureen says she's got the green version of the mushrooms in her shop. Yay! Maureen, remind me the name of your shop. She's over on YouTube, and she has a really great fabric shop. Maureen, write the name of your shop in the comments so that I can tell everybody where to go. I'm so glad you guys like the mushroom fabric. Oh, and Pam's having stream issues. I'm sorry, Pam. Okay. All right, does everybody understand? I'm not going to assemble these because it's really just assembling each section together as you go. And if you're feeling quite brave, the strips are all assembled the same. It's just that two of them have that pink edge on the end, this pink square on the end. So if you want, you can do some, you can sew all your rows together at the same time if you want to. Sorry, my brain just left the building. So hopefully that's not too complicated for you guys. Next week we're going to, I'm going to go back to my main camera. Okay, next week we're going to work on the rest of the Churn Dash. So that means that next week our rows will include, so we'll be making 4 rows again, but the rows will include the 2 vertical legs of the Churn Dash and then another row that looks just like this that will go on the top. And those are assembled all together. So that's what we're going to work on next week. It's just, I broke it out into 2 weeks because it's in 2 sections in the booklet. And there are, you know, kind of a lot of pieces, so I didn't want you guys to get burdened down by that. If you get, you know, really far ahead, feel free to go on. You don't have to stay with me. If you're just diving in, that's totally fine. Okay. All right. I didn't see, I think, oh, so tips for matching the HST corners and pressing opposite directions. So yes, Dawn, all the rows go in the same direction for this week. That's correct. And yes, so all of your mushrooms will face the same direction. They will face up this week. And they will all face up next week as well. But you're going to have to, if you want to do the mushrooms and you want the legs of the Churn Dash, which is this part right here. Can you guys see that? So this is what I mean when I'm talking about the legs. If you want those to be vertical also, then you will need to cut out some of your blocks, the mushroom blocks up and down, and then some with the selvage and some against the selvage. And that will give you those vertical pieces so that the mushrooms look straight up. Okay, and then Rhonda, for matching the half square triangles, what I usually do, and this isn't really too much of a scientific method, is I'm going to switch back to the camera so that I can answer that. Okay, so I place my pieces like this. I do find that it's a little bit easier to sew down on a half square triangle rather than to sew like this. Because inevitably you're going to have to kind of stop and start, and it's easy for your piece to shift. So if you can, it doesn't always work that way to sew, so that you're kind of following the way the fabric is pressed. But usually I can kind of eyeball a 1/4 inch seam. So I usually kind of put my thumbnail there, and then I open the seam to make sure that I have a good point. So I'll kind of move my hand up a little bit so you guys can see that. But so I'm basically holding my thumbnail about where a 1/4 inch seam would be, and then I'm sort of using my other fingernail to open that up and make sure, okay, that does look like that latches up. If it's off, then you can kind of see, oh, that's going to look down, and then you can shift accordingly. And then you can just start to sew. If you need to pin that, you can also do that. If you want to kind of pin here, if you really want to be super precise, so you can put in a pin about where you think a 1/4 inch is, and then open your seam up and check it. So like I put that in a little bit off, and I can see that it would be off. So then I can take my pin out and readjust it. So you can do that. I do always do that to make sure that it's lining up, that it's going to look right. I will tell you though, there are a lot of half square triangles in this, and you do want to try and be as accurate as possible. But I also want you to give yourself a little bit of grace. If they're not perfect, I promise you, you are the only person that's going to see that. Nobody else is going to notice in all these Churn Dash half square triangles that on some of them your corners are just a little bit off. So I really do try and get them as close as possible, but if they're not perfect, I don't worry about that. This is sometimes if I get too caught up in making sure things are aligned correctly, or if I rip things out. Now, if it's something that's really visible, I do rip it out. And I'm not saying that I never do that, but I also do just kind of sometimes go with it and go, okay, this is for fun. I am having fun. And if I'm constantly ripping seams, that's not so fun. So just get it as close as you can, but then don't stress if it's not perfect. So I will say that. As far as pressing, and I'm glad you brought that up, Rhonda. So I have pressing instructions in the booklet for pressing between the Churn Dash legs and the half square triangles, but I apparently did not put them in for pressing between the half square triangles. I pressed those seams open. So between the half square triangles, they are pressed open, and I felt like that reduced my bulk just a little bit. You can press them to one side or the other, but I felt like pressing them open just gave it a little bit more, it just made it a little flatter. And especially since we're going to have, another seam coming in and meeting there, a couple other seams, it's going to kind of cut down on that a little bit. So that would be my recommendation, is between the half square triangle sections, you know, like right here, press those seams open. Unless you really hate doing that, and then to press them to one side. But that's my tip about the pressing. Okay. All right. Well, and Shirley said she pressed open too. And that Lisa says complete is better than perfect. I love it. Okay. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to enter this week's giveaway for the Enchanted Meadow Stacker, the really cute Olfa rotary cutter. You guys know we can't have enough other rotary cutters, right? And then the Happy Charm from Lori Holt, the cute little quilt block charm. So make sure you enter this week's giveaway, leave comments, share your photos. Don't forget that we are having a very big giveaway at the end, hosted by Lady Belle Quilting. She is offering 20% off quilting for everyone that makes up the A Walk in the Woods quilt and finishes before July. So 20% off long arm quilting. How awesome is that? And we're giving away for one person that participates at the end of the sew along. We are giving away long arm quilting for somebody. So that's amazing. And the easy way to enter is share photos of your progress and use the hashtag A Walk in the Woods SAL. And that's in today's video description. So all you have to do is copy it and paste it. You need to have that on your photo because it's too hard for me to find them otherwise. So make sure you use that. That's how I'm keeping track of everybody that's been sharing photos and entering. That's your entries. So yay, I can't wait to see who wins at the end. It's going to be awesome. Okay, everybody have a fabulous week. I will see you next week for more churn dashing. Don't forget that tomorrow is a new RBD block challenge block, and it is gorgeous, you guys. I will be sharing that. I can't wait for you to see mine. I'll be sharing that in my Facebook group and on others in Instagram and Facebook. And so if you're over on YouTube, you can check the other accounts for that. It's a gorgeous block. So I hope you guys have a fabulous week. I'll see you later.